Hello, everybody. Welcome to this presentation on literary theory, the first part. Historicism studied literature in context of social, political, and cultural history. It's the idea of attributing significance to elements of space and time, that is, historical period, geographical place, and local culture, in order to contextualize theories, narratives, and other interpretative instruments. Historicism was an offspring of Hegelian idealism. Hegel saw philosophy as history of philosophy. From person to society to history, the spirit ran. The zeitgeist or spirit of the age stands against the idea of tabula rasa. Franz Boas's historical particularism, cradle of civilization thing, social Darwinism, cultural evolution, cultural ecology, all are grand theories. In 1943 came E.M.W. Tilliard's The Elizabethan World Picture. Literature expressed Elizabethan worldview and spirit of age according to it. In 1950s, Lacan and Foucault argued that each epoch has its own knowledge system, within which individuals are entangled. In historicism, all questions must be settled within the cultural and social context in which they are raised. New historicism aims to understand intellectual history through literature and literature through its cultural context. It's a literary theory, of course, that was first known as cultural poetics because, of course, it looks at the relation between culture and literature. It was first developed in the 1980s by Stephen Greenblatt. Harold Aram Weezer in 1989, The New Historicism gave the characteristics of the same too. Literary, subliterary, and non-literary texts can be read side by side. For example, Shakespeare is studied not as a great author, but as a means of reconstructing the cultural milieu of Renaissance theatre. Lynn Hunt and Foucault influenced New Historicism a lot. New Historicism shared many theories of cultural materialism that we'll talk about later. Cultural materialism emphasizes on the present implication of its study and disagrees with the current power structure and works to give power to traditionally disadvantaged groups. Taine's race, milieu, and moment, that is, social circumstances, affect literature deeply, was taken up by New Historicism too. Louis Monstrose's textuality of history and historicity of texts gives equal weightage to text and history. Stephen Greenblatt's cultural poetics looks at literary and non-literary texts circulating inseparably together. Foucault, Althusser, etc., uh, they influenced the history of New Historicism. Louis Monstrose juxtaposes Renaissance plays with horrifying colonial policies, historical document, and a code text or an anecdote. Cultural materialism is politicized historiography. It's a critical method with attention to historical context, political commitment, and textual analysis. It originated in the work of Raymond Williams. It makes analysis based in critical theory in the tradition of the Frankfurt School. It emerged in the 1980s. The term was coined by Williams himself to describe the theoretical blending of leftist culturalism and Marxist analysis. Cultural materialism deals with specific historical documents and attempts to analyze and recreate the zeitgeist of a particular moment in history. It identifies residual, emergent, and oppositional cultural elements. It follows Marcuse, Gramsci, and Althusser's idea. For example, how hegemonic forces appropriate canonical texts and utilize them in an attempt to validate or inscribe certain values on the cultural imagery. Jonathan Dollimore and Alan Silfield's Political Shakespeare Essays in Cultural Materialism came in 1985 and influenced the field a lot. Cultural materialism draws attention to the processes being employed by contemporary power structure, the church, the state, etc., to disseminate ideology. It explores the text's historical context and political implications, as we talked about. Through close textual analysis, it notes the dominant hegemonic position, identifies possibilities for rejection or subversion of that position. It engages with issues like gender, race, sexuality, class, etc. It impacted literary studies, especially in Britain, and especially Renaissance studies. Thank you for being with me.